Increasing the carbon content or the organic matter of our soils is one of the best things that we can do to increase the productivity and profitability of our farms. There are a lot of proven strategies to help make this possible, but the question that I struggled with when I first came back to the farm over 5 years ago is, how do you increase the soil health, the carbon content significantly of our soils when you have limited resources and limited experience with heavy equipment? I'm Rob from Dowdle Family Farms, and over the last 5 years, I've been working to improve the soil health on our farm in substantial ways. I have started off in some of our garden areas that were about an acre, and then slowly, gradually started branching out into smaller sections of the pastures. Over the last 5 years, I've managed to increase the productivity of about 4.5 acres of pasture. When compared to a garden, 4 acres of pasture is a lot. But when you start talking about grazing livestock on 100 acres or 150 acres of pasture, 4 acres is very, very small. In this video, we're going to start off with the 3 main strategies that can be used to increase the carbon content of your soils in your garden, in your pastures, or on your homestead. So the first primary way of increasing the carbon content of your soils is by using livestock. Now, we've run meat chickens and egg layers on our farm over the last several years. We stopped doing this 2 years ago, but it's amazing how much fertility the chickens bring to the farm. The problem that we ran into is doing this on a smaller scale. You spend a lot of time, energy, and effort doing it, and so we've focused primarily now on pigs and cattle. If you manage ruminants and small paddocks, it's called management-intensive grazing or rotational grazing. They'll trample a lot of the weeds and stuff that they don't want to eat, and then they'll graze the good products, and then you move them the next day. Creates a lot of great soil health. The second strategy that I'll mention is using cover crops in your soils. You can plant them with a no-till drill and they won't mess up your sod. And it is amazing how much organic matter just one growing season of a sorghum Sudan grass based cover crop mix can put into the soil. They can grow anywhere from 6 to 12, maybe even 14 tons of dry matter per acre. That is huge. However, the downside of that is getting it planted on 100 acres is really, really problematic. We'll come back to the problems with some of these strategies in a few minutes. The third primary strategy that you can use is apply carbon directly to your soils. There are a lot of different carbon bases that you can use, from hay to mulch hay to leaves to compost, biochar. There are just a whole lot of different types of carbonaceous materials that you can add to your soils to increase their fertility. They have their downsides as well. So come along and join me as we talk about how we've done it on the farm and how you can do it as well. So my dad cleared this field. It was originally in some kind of scrubby wood. You can see the old barn there. It follows that group of trees and goes right over there to that tree line. Then it comes west over there to that tree line. And then this tree line is the north-south border. And then right there is the road. Basically, the strategy in this field is what grows in the summer. We graze it with the cows, move them off of it, let it regrow, and move them off of it again. We don't really have a whole lot of real good summer grazing. On the other side of that little short line of trees closest to us where the barn and that shed are is what we call the red field. And it's about 50 acres or 40 acres, I forget now which. But in the red field, it has a good stand of fescue and a good stand of white clover. And we've scattered some dock and chicory, plantain over the years in there as well. And it performs really, really well, especially in March, April, and May. Those times of the year, it just performs better than any of the other pastures. And we just use as summer grazing. It's wet, and so in the summer it tends to dry out some when we have less rain. And so we move the cows in here, graze it really hard, really fast, move the cows off of it, let them regraze it. We get a lot of what's known as weedy grass. There's no real good Bermuda, no other real good grasses. The cows eat it and perform pretty well, and even if the soil is acidic, that's fine. There's a little bit of fescue, as you can see, in that little clump of grass right there. And you can see little spots of fescue here and there. So there is a little bit of decent cool season forage, but it's very slim pickings. We fed hay in this area last year. In fact, you can still see tractor ruts right here that are 3 or 4 inches deep. They're not real bad, but it's very uneven ground. But where we fed hay last year, I scattered some ryegrass seed along with some clover seed, and it has taken off and performed relatively well. The cows were over here about 3 weeks ago, so it's had some moderate success. And you can see additional areas, little spots of green, where we had fed hay as well. But here the primary strategy is just keeping the cows out here. I'm also working to improve a 10-acre field, poor soil, kind of wet, just like this, across the road. So let's jump over there and see what it looks like. So these 3 wooden posts here are the gate systems for the entrance into this 10-acre field here north of Dowdle Road. Over here to the right, I've had pigs in this paddock before. It's about 5 acres. And in this paddock over here, I've not had pigs. It's about 5 acres as well. The paddock over here to the left is what I'll call Paddock A. It is on the edge of the property. This southern fence and that western fence do not have good pig fences on there yet, so I've got to string up some wire to keep the pigs from getting out over there. However, the northern and the eastern side of Paddock A are fine for pig fences. Mostly what's growing in here, now you see some Bermuda all right here at the entrance. We see a good bit of plantain right here when you first come in. I did broadcast some ryegrass and clover over here, so you can see the little bits of thin grass growing. That's the ryegrass. See a little bit of clover. That may be what has already been there. And you can tell that most of the stemmy grass here, there's some fescue, but there's also some broom sedge and a lot of just weedy, coarse, tough grasses. Vasey's grass is in here, and it's similar to Dallas grass. It's just not the most productive or the nutritious for livestock. Pigs will eat it, but it doesn't really do anything for them. But in this field, we've only had cattle grazing. I do want to put pigs in here. I'm not sure at what point I will do that, but it will be easy to do. So it's been a week and a half since I recorded the description of this field. This is Paddock A. Each year we feed 50 to 100 bales of hay. We're working to graze a little more efficiently, but this year it looks like we'll be feeding 50 to 60 bales of hay. We've had about 30 of those bales of hay delivered so far. The guy delivering the hay got stuck, and that was very interesting. And I've just placed these bales of hay at different areas around the field. We've only got about half the hay delivered so far. And what we're going to do, I'll set up some temporary poly wire and let the cows bale graze in this paddock. Essentially what bale grazing is taking hay and either rolling it out or setting it out beforehand, whatever, and letting the cattle graze the hay. This field is so wet, I don't plan on unrolling the bales of hay, but rather we'll just take the net wrapping off, let the cattle graze. They'll manure a lot in this area, and they will also leave behind remnants of hay. I've had a couple people reach out and ask me why we don't bale hay during the summer when we have an excess. And the reason for that is quite simple. We only use 50 to 100 bales of hay per year, and the cost of the equipment is just outrageous. When you can get hay delivered for $30 to $40 a bale, and it's decent, good quality hay, We can purchase it cheaper than we could bale it on our own farm. Also, out of let's say we graze 50 bales of hay in this 5-acre field, that's easily 25,000 pounds of dry material that's being deposited into the soil here on the farm. So we're importing those nutrients. It's good grazing for the winter. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have to feed hay, but if we're going to feed hay, we'd rather buy it. It's cheaper than we could bale it ourselves, especially on a smaller scale. So later this week, I'll set up some temporary paddocks, and then we'll move the cows over here. So this is kind of what the soil looks like a year or so after hay is fed. Now the cattle, one of the things you'll notice is that in bringing the hay out here, especially while it was wet, I've had a lot of issues with making ruts and all in the field. But again, keep in mind the cows will be in here. They're going to trample this paddock to death. They'll destroy the sod. Depending on the time of the year and the weather, I'll broadcast some seed, winter peas or something like that. Let the cattle kind of tromp it into the ground. The whole paddock will look worse than what these ruts are. It'll have manure and hay and straw and everything else mixed together. And in that process, we can broadcast some smaller seeds and even some larger seeds into the paddock, and it'll grow. We can come back and put pigs in here. Again, the paddock is not level. It's rough to ride across anyway. And so with the pigs in here, with the forage cover crops, they'll get a lot of forage. They'll deposit a lot of manure, and it'll increase the productivity of these 10 acres here as well. We're in the 10-acre field. This side to my left here is paddock A, and this side to my right is paddock B. There's the tree line over there. And then you probably can't see the fences, but over there where the livestock trailer is, just this side of the tractor, just this side of that, those vehicles over there are where this field stops. Now, the northern section over here to my left has been tilled, and I grew some soybeans in it last August. They grew really, really well. I just did not get to graze them before the armyworms came through and annihilated them. Interestingly enough, I saw a flock of anywhere between 10 and 25 turkeys eating the armyworms off the soybeans. The soybeans hadn't even gone to seed yet. They weren't eating the soybean seed. They were just eating the bugs off of them. So along the edge of where I've actually disked or tilled this field here, to the left I have not, and to the right I have. And in the middle I kind of set up a bunch of T-posts to put polywire. I just moved these pigs into this paddock. So as we begin looking east, as we are right now, the strategy in this field should become a little more apparent. My goodness, in the middle of filming, we've got a Mangalitsa pig. That's a bear that keeps jumping through these electric fences. Anyway, things never go quite right on the farm. A friend helped me move these pigs into this paddock New Year's Day, and so the strategy is probably pretty obvious by now. We're applying mulches to the field directly. You can see that they're piled leaves. Again, that same friend, Bubba, helped me put out about 100 bags of leaves or so Sunday afternoon. And then there's a bunch of mulch hay as well. We're using the pigs here to root up the sod. It'll save a good bit of tractor work. Yes, they'll make a few holes like this and the ground will be uneven. This time of the year, they don't wallow too much. After all, it is January 4th and it's 60 degrees outside, 65 degrees, so they're not going to wallow around too much. But you can tell where they've already rooted up a lot of the woody grasses, the cypress weed or dog fennel. They've also rooted up a lot of the broom sedge and the Vasey's grass. And so they're getting some forage and feed value out of it as well. But the biggest thing is that while they're out here, they'll manure out probably 3, 4, 5, 6,000 pounds of manure in this field. That manure will build a lot of fertility in the soil. So in addition to the leaves and the hay, with the urea and the manure, there's just a world of a lot of benefit that the soil life will get out of this field. Now, I'll move them down in further paddocks as well, and so they'll have 2, maybe 3 more paddocks that I'll continue adding mulches to the fields. Then I'll fence them in and move the pigs there as well. So before I move the pigs, I'll broadcast cover crops that'll serve 3 or 4 different purposes. First and foremost, there will be ryegrass and or cereal rye that'll help absorb the nutrients in the soil right now. They'll both grow really well in our winters here, but I'll also include some legumes like clover or Austrian winter peas. The legumes will help fix additional nitrogen and also provide a higher protein feed for the pigs when I move them back in here again in March or April or May. But I'll broadcast the cover crop seeds 2 or 3 days before I move the pigs. I'll make sure that they're not treated, and I'll broadcast them at 2 or 3 times the normal rate. And then I'll bring them, leave them there for a couple of days. The pigs will eat some of them. They'll trample a lot of them. They'll miss a lot of them. And then I'll bring the pigs over to the next field. In the northern side of the field, I've already planted clover and ryegrass. The clover and ryegrass should do relatively well. You can see little bits of strains of ryegrass. We just had a real cold weather for our area, 8 degrees, no snow on the ground. So the cool season crops were killed. Their growing points were not, so they'll grow back. But the clover will grow pretty well, and this field will have a lot of forage value in it this spring, hopefully. Even if it doesn't, I can still put the pigs out here. They'll get some feed value out of it, just not as much. And then I'll broadcast warm season cover crop mixes that include sorghum, sudan grass, millets, cowpeas, and that kind of stuff. This strategy in the field will help reduce the amount of equipment, especially heavier equipment that I need to plant. I can use my 40 horsepower tractor and the hopper to broadcast the seed out here, and things should go relatively well. This special attention in these 2 fields this year will make a world of a lot of difference in the quality of the soil on some of the poorest soils on our farms. So what are you doing to increase the productivity of your farm or your yard, your garden, or your homestead? Do you use livestock? If so, which ones? Leave us a comment, let me know, or I try to respond to every single comment, good or bad. If you think we're crazy, why do you think we're crazy? Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it with friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Take care, have a great day, and until next time.